What's going on, everybody? You tune into another episode of Chopping It Up with Q podcast. Trying to knock another one out for this year of 2021. Ain't nothing changed. It's
Uh,
still 2020. Just a continuation. At
just
least
a
that's
new,
how it feels.
just a new number on the end. That's all. I feel like the murder hornets will be back for us.
It's gonna be something. All of a sudden, it's gonna be like killer seagulls or something. It's like, why? Why are they mad now? But
The seagulls are mad. Like they formed a whole CPAC, and now they're coming.
oh
Oh,
man. But other than that,
well, that's Q,
yeah.
and I'm V. I don't know what else has been up. We survived the great Texas storm of 2021. You were in Delaska.
Yep, pretty much. That's what it was.
The next week turned into Miami.
Yeah, we was in there laughing. We were like, man, you realize for like almost a week straight, we didn't get above freezing, and then the following week it was 60, 70 even. And I was like,
beautiful.
Man, this is crazy. And no, crazy white folks, the snow is not fake. I don't know why y'all think. That one was funny.
So, did you not pay attention in science class but I will say a lot of that about snow being fake and people burning snow is shit that you see happening in places where they don't get snow. Because if you live somewhere where you got snow, then your science teacher probably had a discussion with you about the properties of snow and why it does not melt like with a flame. Mm-hmm. But because we don't get snow here, that's not something that would come up on the curriculum because how would you prove it? You know what I mean? Like you'd have to watch videos. So it's like
that is true.
Like because I'll be the first to admit we did not have that conversation in any of my science classes, but I'm also not an idiot. So
no, not at all. I mean, we Google everything else. We can't just look in and say, hey, why doesn't snow melt like ice? Start from there. I mean, I think it's a simple question.
Because people only Google what they want to Google. If it suits them better to have some type of conspiracy theory about how snow is fake and the government pumped it into whatever the end game is in creating fake snow that burns with the flame. I don't know what the end game is there, but whatever they're saying it is.
Yeah.
It's cooler to get on the internet and do your little video about the snow burning and say that than it is to Google it and just be like, oh, this is why snow doesn't melt like ice.
I mean, I kind of go with
because then what else would you post on TikTok?
That's true. I mean, in reality, sometimes the reality of it isn't as exciting. It's like no one wants to know that. Oh, well, it's a different process. It's not the same. It gets slushy, and then when it gets, it melts into itself. You're like, damn, that's not interesting. I'd rather know that Bill Gates made this shit, and somehow he has like a weather machine that he blanketed all of Texas with it. Yeah, that sounds better.
Well, we survived. It's my understanding that most people have all their water and stuff back, except for maybe those who had some serious like plumbing issues. But it seems like everybody's back to normal. I laughed because y'all's favorite mother is taking online classes, and she thought that the classes ended March 11th for some reason. The classes definitely ended this past Friday, but because of the weather, they extended the semester a week. So now she's in a mad dash to finish up her work, and I'm currently writing a paper because, yeah.
You're a great daughter. That's all I can say. Because you should throw that back on them, because I swear when we were kids, they didn't want to hear that we didn't know when something was due or when class ended. Did you get that same treatment? I know I did.
Well, my mom didn't. She just knew that there should be a report card coming home, and I was left to my own devices past that. Once I got to a certain age, obviously when I had homework and was like in elementary school, that type of stuff, she kept a better eye on like homework and that type of thing. But as I got older, she was like, she's a straight A student. I don't think she needs me to help her do her algebra homework, which also I cannot help her do her algebra homework.
It's been a while.
Right. So, I mean, I think it's one of those things, right? The more children are required to learn, there becomes like a gap in what we as parents can actually assist with. Like some things will never change, but some things you're going to be rusty about, and it's going to be hard for you to come home after work and switch gears and be like, let me help you with your pre-cal. Like I took pre-calculus. I did well. I have a working knowledge, but I'm rusty on some of the particulars. So,
Oh, it would just be like that meme with the dude in the do-rag. Yeah, just round the motherfucker right here. And yeah, that's how I've been teaching over here.
If Johnny has 5 apples, and you start yelling, and they're like, Mom, there's this cosine, tangent, sine, there's no apples, there's no numbers. It's infinity. What are we talking about?
Just pretend that these are actual numbers and not degrees.
But they're not real numbers. They're not real numbers. Well, we're pretending they're real right now.
Yeah.
Why your kids failing math? I'm just saying, like, at some point that the parents just don't have a grasp on it, and it's hard for you to keep monitoring your kids. Like, obviously you want to monitor if they have assignments, and you're looking at like 3 weeks to see, are we failing things? Where can we improve? But the day to day, it's kind of
hard. Oh man.
Especially if you have multiple children. Right now, they're doing these online learning formats. And so I keep hearing, which I know we didn't say we were going to talk about this, but I keep hearing these stories about these parents who are, working, but, they have like a command center set up, right? So everybody's kind of working out of the same area, because you don't have 2 dining room tables. You don't want your kids laying in their bed working. You want to kind of keep an eye on the younger ones, to make sure they're not sleeping or get off task and start playing with things. So a lot of people have their kids set up like in places where they can visibly see them while they're also working from home. So what happens is that they're overhearing these lessons, and then they're hearing some things that they aren't too happy with. So yeah, I've heard everything from a teacher some kids doing slavery yoga or something, slave yoga.
Say what now?
At an elementary school, which the Root did an article about this, and I'll have to send you the link so you can link it in the show notes. But there was an article on the Root that I'd read today where the teacher basically, I guess they were like elementary kids, and so she was teaching them about slavery, but she was saying things like, oh, well, the slaves came here on traveled here on boats to come to America, so let's do our boat pose. And then the slaves were out in the field, and they worked very, very hard to build this country, and they were out in the fields, so let's do our field pose, like stuff like that. So basically, it was supposed to be a lesson on slavery that was tied to yoga. And it's very confusing, because it's like, why don't you just teach them about slavery?
Wow. They just traveled over here. They thought, yo, man, it looked dope over there, man. Let's just hop on these boats. Oh, man.
It looked dope about, how would they even know that it looked dope? Like, and that's the part, like, it's not like America sent travel brochures and was like, we sure want y'all to come over here. Our travel industry is really suffering this season. And so we just are advertising 2-for-1 night room specials. We have cocktail vouchers. Please come one, come all, luxury accommodations on the boats. Like, nobody said that.
You mean I get my own little space while on the boat? Yeah. And when I get there, I get my own shack? Huh. Okay. All right. And there's a barter system alongs. I don't get to participate technically in the barter system, but I'm okay. That sounds horrible, but sure. Fine. I trust you, white guy. You seem cool.
Really? That's not what happened.
Come on. I mean, it's like, I have to remember this article too. I think it was Utah. They had a school that voted that they weren't going to teach Black History Month like at all, and I think it was rescinded because there was a bunch of public it was backlash on it. It's like, here we are 2021 and we're still debating if we want to teach the dark times, because it's not all bad. Yes, it is horrible, but we can also teach the prominent Black people who helped build shit here in the U.S. When is it just going to be a part of history in general?
See, and I think that's the problem, right? It's like we were saying before we started recording. Like, we are going to get to the bottom of some of this shit. Like, we are going to have solutions for this shit eventually. And so, in my mind, I understand why there is a need for Black History Month, for Latino, or
Definitely.
Mexican or Hispanic, Mexican Heritage Month. I'm not sure what they call it, or Asian Heritage Month, whatever their months are called. And I apologize for not knowing what they are called, and that's on me. I probably should know more so what they're called. But I think it's interesting, right? Like everybody gets a month, and then that month has to be incorporated into the history of America. And it's like, but the history of America is the history of immigrants, right? Like America is built on immigrants. Like everybody in America except for the Native Americans that they killed and slaughtered for this land is an immigrant to America.
Yes.
It is literally a nation and a story of immigrants, of people from different cultures and different places. Yeah. So for me, it seems like then all of this, whatever it is, whether it's good or bad, is just American history. So I get the need to have a focus because obviously the curriculum is not teaching anything about Black people. But it's like, when are we going to get to the point where these people that are writing textbooks and curriculum just include these things? So then we don't have to have all these months that white people complain about and want their children to opt out of.
Yeah,
like it shouldn't be there should be no option for you to opt out of the history of America because these people are still Americans. Yeah. And we're Americans when you brought them over here. So it's insane to me that now, how 400 years of slavery or, the mistreatment of Mexican people when they came over here and how we stole their lands. And basically we're like, well, guess what? Now you live in Texas. Too bad, unless you want to move. Like they want to gloss over the ugliness, and I just don't see why we have to gloss over the ugliness. There are ways to make things appropriate for the age level you are presenting it to, but in no way is slave yoga appropriate for any age level of children. Neither is allowing your children to opt out of Black History Month and just being like, well, my children don't need to know anything about Black people. Like, what? You sound crazy.
Yes. and that's the kicker part, because they feel that if you teach that, it just makes the little kids feel bad. And it's like, that's not the point. You will feel, if you are a human, you're going to feel some empathy, hopefully. At least I'm hoping. But to then say, I don't want to learn about it because it makes me feel bad, that's not how we teach. That's not how you should teach. So
that's how you should teach anything, right? Because then that would... History is always written from the viewpoint of winners, right? And so it is our job in being impartial teachers of history, or to take into account everything that happened. And I'm not saying that you need to post videos of slave atrocities and lynchings for your third graders to look at. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm not saying that that's appropriate material for 6 or 7 or 8-year-olds. But I feel like there are certainly appropriate ways to discuss slavery and the impact that it had on America, or discuss the ways in which we, did Native Americans wrong and put them on. There are ways to discuss those things that are age appropriate, rather than gloss over them and be like, my kid doesn't need to hear that. And then when they poll American adults on the street, that's why they don't know how many stars are on the fucking flag or what they stand for, or... You know, like we did a show prior to this a couple of years back when we both were like reading the questions from the citizenship test.
Yeah.
Most people that are native born Americans can't pass that test. So what does that tell you? They aren't learning white history, Black history. They aren't learning any fucking history. So what does it matter if you add curriculum that is inclusive of everything that happened to America, good, bad, or the ugly, when motherfuckers don't listen anyway?
Yeah.
If they aren't picking up the most basic parts, then what the fuck do you care if you, instead of just saying, oh, Boston Massacre, that one line they always add where they shot Crispus Attucks every fucking, like.
Yeah. And then people still will say, oh, I never knew that happened.
It's like, am I lying? Like every book has that one line with Boston Massacre where they have to tell us that Crispus Attucks, a free black man was also killed.
Yep.
And it's like, how about all the other Black people that died before him? We're not going to talk about that? We're just not going to? Okay.
No, not at all. No. Mm-mm. It's kind of like the whole history of the Black Panther Party, which I'm still getting the courage to watch it. Which is Judas and the Black Messiah?
Black Messiah. Mm-hmm.
Because I always have a hard time watching period pieces, especially when I kind of already have a general idea how it's gonna go.
Well, I have a hard time watching shit where they try to put it from the view of somebody that doesn't need to be from the view of. I don't need to see the story of a motherfucker that's an informant. I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, and that's what somebody pointed out. They were like, they went from trying to sell us slave narratives, and we didn't want to hear these slave narratives anymore with these white saviors. Then it was like, let's tell black people stories. We're going to tell them from like the police view and the informant view, and like make it like they're in a battle of wits or wills. And it's like, but that's not what the fuck happened.
No. Now,
y'all killed a 21-year-old man while he slept in his home for what fucking reason? Because he wanted to give some kids free lunch? Because he advocated for financial freedom of black people? Like, the fuck, y'all sound crazy. Like, you sound fucking nuts. And to try to gloss over it and package it in a way that makes it seem like this just like, oh, this is messy business, and it's not. Let's not.
See, here's what they were. Well, now, this is my opinion of it. We don't have actual words to actually prove any of these things, but here's the thing. I always even point to this like Martin Luther King. When you're just talking about the liberation of blacks and hey, maybe we should be treated a little bit better, they'll kind of somewhat hear you. That's fine. All right, whatever. But when you're talking about getting together all cultures and all groups, or you start talking about the economics of how it's impacting low income people, now you're running into problems. And so I always tell a lot of people, like, when it comes to, just about to say, Fred Hampton. There we go. He was one of the first Black Panther Party members to then not only talk about the liberation of blacks, but he also lined himself up with poor white people, the Mexican people, all these other people. And what that do is basically create this big conglomerate that makes it really, really hard to go, to pretty much fuck people over still.
Yeah, I mean, I think that and that's the thing. I think that the propaganda machine has been so very good at demonizing these types of people and cutting off the parts of their quotes that don't seek to paint a certain picture, right? Mm-hmm. Like Black History Month, they learned about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and it was always Martin Luther King had a dream, and it was so great, and he was peaceful, and that's how when you protest, you want to do peaceful protest, and it worked because eventually Black people were given rights. Not also talking about the fact that a lot of that was because after that man was killed, Black people were ready to turn this bitch upside down. It was about to be the literal representation of I will knock all this shit over.
Yep.
Black people were sick of the shit. And a lot of Black people didn't even agree with his approach to that peaceful shit in the first motherfucking place, if we want to keep it a buck. So the way that it is romanticized for white people is always interesting to me, and that's still not enough for them. Even then, it's like, well, you're too loud. We don't need to talk about it that way. That's not what he would have advocated for. Even when when the people who knew him best, his own family members, are like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, that's exactly what he. What?
Yeah, because here's the thing, like, people always want to say, oh, he was nonviolent, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, let's put that in context, man, because y'all just be saying shit because it sounds good. The reason the dude was nonviolent because he had a good idea that, one, poor white folks in general in the U.S. have pretty much all the capital on violence. And especially in that time, they were just waiting for the green light. And so if you have let's say 18, I think it was a smaller percentage than 12% of blacks who really only make up majority of the South. And then you have 60-some% of white folks all across America, because a lot of people also want to think that it was only really going hard in the South. Nah, it hit Chicago, it hit New York, it hit all these different places. It hit America in general.
Racists live everywhere. Yeah. I don't know why that's crazy to me. All the North, we don't have racists. No, you have racists, sweetheart. They just have done a better job of making you feel like they're less racist. They're not less racist. They just aren't. They aren't shooting you in the streets, but they'll shoot you and then say that you deserved it because you resisted arrest, or you trespassed on their property, or you looked at them and they were scared for their lives, so they shot you on the sidewalk. Like, you can say whatever you want to say, but it's a widespread situation. Yes. Black people fled the South to get away from what were which were overt racism, but that doesn't mean they got to the North and racism magically stopped for them.
Yeah,
you can be a nigger where shit isn't.
Oh, hey,
just like they say. they were saying that the Inuit people have like hundreds of words for snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a word for nigga in every language.
Yeah.
It is a word for nigger in every goddamn language. Every single one. All of them.
Yep.
Nobody likes us. I don't know why. I don't know why that's hard for them to comprehend. It's not just the American South. It's a word for our asses everywhere. Everywhere.
Hell, even like with Italian folks who really, they had no reason to really have beef with us like that. But they were fighting over the little resources in New York, though. And they were allowed to be white at some point. When you look at
we've had this conversation. Any of these groups that came over here and that were poor, had less access to resources, were all competing for resources. If they could assimilate and make themselves white passing, then that gave them better access to resources. And what's one way to make yourself, to align yourself with white people and become white passing? Gang up on the people that y'all hate. Let's all just hate black people.
Yep, it's the same.
Signs used to say no Irish, no blacks, no Italian, no blacks. And they were like, no, I'm white, so no blacks.
Yeah. I mean, it's also the same when you look at the mulatto down in Louisiana. They somewhat could pass because they were half and half at the time. And then so light that, you know what? Never mind. Okay.
Whoa. Okay, we're going to move on. But the point is that on the last day of Black History Month, I just want y'all to remember that it does not have to be this way. And in being solution oriented on this last day, I will always be proud of and advocate for Black people and for equality and a seat at the table for us. But at the end of the day, having a month and allowing there not to be any change in the way these things are viewed makes it difficult, because you're always going to have that section of white people that say, well, why are we celebrating this? Why do they have a separate history month? Which they will always say, well, there's no white history month. And we always say, well, that's all the rest of the months. Yeah. But that's the thing. American history should be the history of all of us. It should be the history that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. And until we are able to push for better textbook reform, push the people that create these curriculums to include those types of things, there will always be a need for these separate months. And my hope is that eventually we will get to a place where it's not a necessity to learn these things, right? That our children are not only, they're not just being celebrated 28 days out of a year.
Yes. And oh man,
we invented a lot of shit. I'm just saying, we invented a lot of goddamn shit. We can't just talk about it in the context of when it was invented. Like, why we gotta, you know what I mean? Like, why we gotta do all this extra jumping through hoops and shit? A man invented a cotton gin, which it's just like y'all, like, come on. Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be this.
That's because also Eli Whitney helped with the war effort at the time too. Yeah, that's why. No. Anyways, man.
All right.
I mean,
what else? Okay. Woo. Okay. What else? Because the point is, white people, get your shit together. You can't. Nobody kids need to be doing no fucking yoga, and no, your fucking Mormon ass kids cannot opt out of Black History Month.
Yes. I mean, it's actually funny. This is how it's just this last
that's
thing
crazy.
I'll say.
They really. That's wild. Like, no, you can't do that. You can't opt out.
This is actually the last thing I'll probably say about this stuff is that when you think back when we learned world history. Why a large majority of it was just, mostly around the European areas?
Because the history of other places is not important, right? And which is sad when you think about it, because I think I would want to learn the history of the people that taught me how to bathe.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. The people that taught me how to put spices on my food, taught me how to wash my ass, gave me a numeric system, and that's not good enough for you to mention them in the history books? That's really fucked up, man.
Nope. Hell, even helped us get to the moon. But wild that's shit, details. Man. Details.
It's semantics. We don't need to know about that. What else you got for me today?
So, all right, so no, you actually have one for us, kind of shift gears, and I think
let's talk about something lighter.
Yeah, exactly. something less irritable.
Right, less irky. So I don't know so I know you know who B. Simone is. So Quentin is like a full-time like dad person or whatever. So and safety guy extraordinaire. So he's not on social media as much. So sometimes he misses some of the little weird stuff. So I will send him clips, and we send each other clips to kind of keep abreast of shit. Mm-hmm. So you know who B. Simone is, correct? Yes.
I'm very familiar of her and all her philosophy. Yes.
Okay, yes. So have you heard of Kevin Samuels?
Yes, yes. That's the relationship dude, huh? The one that
Yes.
okay, yeah, him.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, which is just probably better that you don't, but for those of you who don't know, B. Simone kind of was on Wildin' Out, and that's how she gained prominence or whatever, but she's just kind of this loud lady who said before we had talked about it because she kind of got on the internet and said, that she didn't want to do, they had a 9 to 5 job, right? She didn't
Yes.
want a job. She needed somebody that understood her entrepreneur lifestyle and that she would be up at 3 a.m. working on deals. And she didn't want a man who was mad because she was up at 3 a.m. Blah, 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 blah. The one that also put out that manifestation books, and it turned out that she stole all the pretty much the content from the book from some other places. Like she was just, borrowing people's Pinterest posts and putting
Yeah.
them in her book.
Man, she just just
Yeah, I don't know. I
balled
just
it.
didn't know
That's
you had
all,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like I didn't know, but whatever. I'm gonna let her have that. People fuck up sometimes. So
Yeah.
so now she's back and she's talking about manifesting partners, and she made an interesting point. So I wanted to. So she says basically that you are asking for things from partners that you do not have yourself, right? So she's saying
Okay.
a lot of people will want like a partner that has a 6-pack and a 6-figure salary and a car and a house or whatever, whatever, whatever. And then they don't have any of those things themselves. And so how are you going to require that from a partner, but you don't have any of those things yourself to bring? And so I thought that that was an interesting take on the way relationships work. And so I'll ask you, do you think that it is a necessity for you to bring the same things to the table that you require in a partner? Do you have to meet those standards, or is it okay for you to bring other things or nothing at all?
I think it just depends. Now, I do get on guys who will get on the whole body image thing, and they'll say, "Yeah, man, my girl got to be like a fitness model, and they look every bit of Jabba the Hutt." It's like, come on, bro, that's not fair. So in those regards, unless she cool with it and that's what she's into, then I'm like, all right, whatever. I think it really just depends on the person. Now, I've made that argument before where I've met a lot of ladies who will say they need a guy who brings home this, this, and this, and she really didn't have any plans for her financial future, I guess you could say, or her career. So, but it really just depends on the goal of your relationship. Because I mean, hell, there's a lot of dudes who will pick a woman up off the streets if she look good enough. Like I'm just saying, like, and I'm pretty sure there's some ladies messing with dudes who ain't got two nickels to rub together, but he brings something.
Exactly. And that's what I thought. See, and that was the part I didn't want to say. And I just wanted to hear I wanted to hear it because I'm a woman. So I wanted to hear it, somebody to hear it from a man's mouth. Because I am rarely the person to not see a double standard in things. Like I'm not that person. I'm not gonna tell you I hate all men or any of that shit. I'm just not that girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't come here if you were looking for the He-Man like man haters club, He-Woman man haters club. I don't know her. But I think that you're right. Like I think men and women view relationships differently and expect different things because when you look at it statistically, you are more likely to find a man who makes 6 figures than you are to find a woman who makes 6 figures.
Yeah, generally.
So, generally speaking, like I'm not saying that there aren't women out here doing boss shit and more power to you. We should all strive to make 6 figures. I'm just saying the way that America as a whole operates and is set up and the way promotions and that type of stuff, women are not the ones that we see in these higher paid, higher prestige positions. So if you're talking about you want somebody to make 6 figures, reasonably speaking, women are going to have more picks of the litter when that is concerned, but they are also less likely to also make 6 figures. I'm not saying there aren't couples that both make 6 figures. I'm just saying statistically, the probability is pretty goddamn low.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I will also say this. This is going to get controversial. Then, dude, you got to kind of realize, is she with you because she like you or because it's comfortable? And I think I'm going to get your thoughts on this too. I think we kind of somewhat touched on it one time. We just need to really change relationships and how we operate money in general. Like, I get money is important because somehow America has made money important in relationships because, people got to live. Fair. But maybe it shouldn't be that way. Maybe things should be a little bit more equitable across the table. I'm just saying. Like, if your woman did make 6 figures, does that mean she's no longer attracted to you, or are you afraid of her now? Like what? Because I've heard that too, where dudes will be like, "Nah, man, I can't date no woman who make more than me." And I'm like, "Why? What's the problem?" And so I don't know. I sit there and wonder now. I'm like, well, maybe there is a financial issue that we're not really discussing, and people kind of just gloss over it. But I don't know. That's my thoughts.
I think there's a lot of issues that we gloss over, right? Because again, like I think that like we're like, well, what do you bring to the table? You can bring a six-figure salary and work all the time and be a gym rat, and that may be attractive to some women, but there are also women out there who would give two fucks about that. And so even though, and they may have the same things, like they may have those same things, and that may be what they have to offer. I may have six figures and have like a model like body and whatever, and have that to offer and bring to the table, but I may also not want that in a partner. Like I may not want somebody who also makes six figures and is a gym rat. I may want some man that's kind of a little chunky and is a chef and is at home cooking me meals and rubbing my feet and telling me how much he loves me and is a romantic, because I work all the time. I don't want a motherfucker to come to the gym with me all the time. I don't want somebody that's at work as much as I am, because we never see each other.
Yeah, and even then,
So people want different things. And so to say that in order for you to require certain things from someone means that you also have to have those things, unless we're talking about bare necessities as an adult. I think that there's certainly some leeway there. Like unless we're talking about like the bare basic things, like I need you to not have a prison record, or like I don't need you to be like a 5-time felon. Like that's just that's out of the question. Like I don't want you to have a felony. I expect you to be living of your own, like which some people are fine taking in homeless homosexual men, and that is fine if that's what you're into. Like that's cool. If you feel like you can see the qualities in somebody and maybe they just need a hand up to get on their feet, and then once you've taken them in, they go get a job and they get a car and they are an equal partner and they're trying to get their shit together, more power to you. I'm not saying it doesn't happen or that it's necessarily a good or a bad thing. But I think that you can certainly want a person. Sorry, like I heard the bathroom door open, but it was the dog. Instead of I closed the door to close myself in the room, and the dog has nudged her way in through the bathroom.
That's all good.
That's all. I was like, that's why I got quiet. Like I didn't lose my train of thought. I just got the door started moving, and I was like, oh shit, ain't nobody in the dogs. Thought I was about to be murdered, y'all. That's scary.
I mean, I'm also here's another question then. Do you feel we've made our relationships too business-like? Because even when you ask that question, what do you bring to the table? How come no one ever say, why don't everybody say, hey, I just want somebody with a good personality, someone who we can work on the financial stuff. Cool. Yeah, we can get there. But if that's the ultimate goal, or that's like number one high on your list,
then you can do that with anybody.
Yeah. Is your relationship
then you shouldn't have any other. What are the other defining characteristics? And I always thought the same thing. Like you and a person can figure out a financial strategy.
Yeah.
You and a person can't figure out how to make a person be a good person. Like I can't figure out how to make you a kinder, more emotionally intelligent person. Like you either are a kind, emotionally intelligent person or you're not. Like if you're out here snapping puppies' necks in back alleyways, like there's no fix for that. I don't care if you make millions of dollars. If you're some weirdo, I can't unweird you.
Yeah, I mean, because how many people we know or seen where they like, man, yeah, my girl bad, but man, she always running around on me. Or, yeah, I got a good guy, but he's abusive. And it's like, well, why you?
But then you don't have a good guy, and you don't have a good partner. You have someone, you have an abusive partner. You have a cheating partner. And I think people are so willing to put up with whatever to keep up appearances that they aren't even like looking for what would be a viable, healthy relationship for them and what works for them as a person. It's always about appearances or this person needs to have.
Yes. So I will go on a limb and say, if you are that person, I'm willing to bet that you have more of a business relationship than a romantic one. If that's how it started off.
Right. And certainly there are parts of relationships that sometimes are transactional. Like sometimes you do have to be like, well, I have this and this to do. Can you do this in exchange? I can maybe do this for you on the weekend. Not the whole relationship is transactional. Sometimes you have to kind of make deals or figure out schedules and do some trade-offs, because that's a part of being a good partner. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily transactional in nature. It comes with part of being a good partner and trying to make your relationship work as best as it can.
Yes.
So I can see the point in saying you can require things of people, but you need to understand why maybe you are not going to find all those things in a person, because that is very possible. Some people do have impossible lists. But I will say that as humans, we are certainly entitled to our own preferences or thoughts about what we're entitled to or whatever. It does not mean that they are going to happen. It does not mean that we're going to get these things. So it just kind of is, where are you willing to compromise on what these standards are in order to get something that works for you?
See,
Because,
I think
go
with
ahead.
that even being said is that the word compromise has such a negative stigma now and connotation that people are unwilling because they feel like if they have to compromise, which we do every day in any regard, and all that means is just to come to some type of agreement. But we think of it as taking less than ultimately what I desire, and that's not always the case.
And I feel like that's because people are conflating compromise with settling.
Yes.
They're not the same thing. I'm not telling you to meet a person and they're serviceable, but nothing about them sparks a fire in you. Nothing about them gives you the feelings of love or acceptance that you require. And then you're just like, well, fuck it, he's paying the bills, and so this is cool. Or
Yeah.
fuck it, she's fine, and she posted cute Instagram photos, but she can't boil water, and she's a horrible parent, and all her kids got taken away by CPS, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying you have to settle for the bottom bare basement, and then be like, cool. All I'm saying is that sometimes there are things on your list that you'll find are not as necessary when you really care about a person and your relationships are not transactional. Because I can say I want a man with a six pack and whatever, but I may find a man who has like a dad bod who I really love. And am I really going to sacrifice all of these other great things about a person because they aren't like in the gym every day? Or
yes,
can
girl,
I,
because you deserve the six
because
pack.
I don't need to, no compromise.
Yes.
I deserve. And it's like, you can deserve all kinds of fucking shit. Like, I deserve $1 million if you ask me, but I don't have it. Like, I deserve I deserve a hot fudge sundae right now, but I don't have one. Like, it is certainly, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I also believe in being realistic about things. I'm not saying that if you're ugly, you can't be with a beautiful woman. I'm not saying if you're poor, you can't be with somebody that's rich. It happens every day. Mm-hmm. But the ways in which men and women view relationships make it difficult for that to be advice straight across the board. And that also is the thing with Kevin Samuels, right? Like, they're like, oh, well, he talks to people very harshly and he tells them whatever, and they have these expectations, and he's just telling them like it is. He's telling them what his view is as a straight man, which I'm assuming he's a straight man. That was my understanding. As a straight man, how he views the world and what he thinks is their value or what they can change or what they have or whatever. And some of it is based in realism, but the point is there's somebody out there for everybody. And it doesn't matter if you have $0, $3, fat, skinny, tall, short. There's ugly, pretty, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It takes all kinds to make the world go round. So if you want to listen to Kevin Samuels and feel like you need to change your entire life to have a partner, then you go for it. But the honest God truth is, there are motherfuckers out here who have no parts of their life together, who have very stable partners. Yes. There are people who are not conventionally attractive, who have people falling all over them because they are confident, assured, they dress well, they're smart, they're kind people. So the looks don't matter as much. So you just need to find the person that does it for you and you do it for them. How do they say, like who likes you? Yeah. Which I'm not saying again. Do not settle for anybody.
Not settle.
Do not settle. Do not settle. I cannot say that enough. Nobody here is telling you to settle for anything. Because again, that also gets misconstrued. When somebody tells you to like who likes you, they're just saying, if you have been shooting your shot at the same girl on Instagram for 2.5 years and she has done nothing but send you like a smiley face every now and again for one of your corny ass jokes, she does not like you.
She don't like you like that, dog. Just
go find somebody else to like. Just find somebody that if you approach them with your advances, if you find them attractive, they also find you attractive and respond to those advances.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. I'm not
Hey.
saying settle. I'm just saying it is okay for you to like someone and then like you back instead of you chasing unicorns and windmills and this Don Quixote style campaign to get with somebody that does not want you.
Hey, know your range. That's all. That's
it. Just like people who like you. It is okay to reach for the stars or whatever the fuck you want to call it, but also, why are you reaching for the stars? Like, that sounds really fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's true. It's space, right? It's people die up there without protection. But no.
They're like reach for the stars, and even if you miss, or was it reach for the moon?
Reach for the moon, and if you miss, you're still amongst the stars. It's like, okay,
or some shit. But it's like that. Do you know how far the moon is from stars? Like,
yeah,
like you fucked up.
now come on,
you have to fuck up. You need to regroup.
Come on, V. You know the moon's just a astral projection.
You need to regroup. Like, I don't want to hear that. If you miss the moon, and the consolation here is that you landed among stars out in space, you need to regroup.
Yeah,
because you're going to run out of oxygen soon and you're going to die.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the moral of the story here.
I would also say this. So people like Kevin Samuel and Derek Jackson and all those people, they do kind of subway. Because here's my thing too. It goes to show how there's a lot of people who really aren't confident within themselves, that they do have to reach out to random people who appear to have a following to then say something to them. Like, I never understood the concept of a relationship specialist or guru, because relationships are so dynamic and so complex. You wouldn't be able to be a specialist
all the time. Now, and that's why I think, right, people go to therapy. Right, they go to therapy, but most people tell you if they go to couples therapy, the therapist will talk to you together, but the therapist will also give you things to work on by yourself, because you're still two parts of a whole. So in order to improve your relationship, you do have to work on your individual issues. So I don't think that when these people focus on just the parts of your relationship, they're doing you any good.
So,
like, it's a Band-Aid for a bullet hole. And that's never going to long-term effectively fix your problem.
And then you got some people, they'll just tell you what you want to hear, take your money, and say, hey, have a great day. And you got some people who are going to lead you down a totally horrible path that you should have never been in anyway. So,
right, which is what you see. Like, I'm not saying that Kevin Samuels and that Derek Jackson guy, or even B. Simone, are necessarily trying to mislead people, but they're certainly selling a certain type of, well, this is why you don't have anybody, because you think that you're entitled to these things and you're not entitled to anything because you're old or you have 3 kids or you only make $400. Like, it's all this, like,
it's
shaming
all subjective opinion.
Right, it's subjective opinions. And so you're taking the opinion of one person who claims to be a relationship expert and then letting them belittle you or tough love you or whatever you want to call it into changing things about yourself or feeling like you need to be something different, when there is probably someone out there who doesn't mind that you're 40 or that you have 3 kids or that you make $400 or that whatever. There's being realistic with people about expectations, and then there's being shitty with people because you don't think their expectations align with whatever your view of them is. Because we came on this earth alone, we're going to leave this bitch alone. It just is what it is. So to sit there and take so much weight from some other person who is going to leave this bitch alone just like you are, and then make that your Bible as to why you're single, just sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, and you don't know that nigga.
There's no science to this. There's no exact science. Like, you can do everything right, get married, have kids, and that shit still fall apart in 20 years. So there's no exact science to making this shit work. So to let some unlicensed YouTube motherfucker tell you why you're single just seems asinine.
Yeah, so they can get some clicks. So, hey.
Like, yeah, there's no real help there. So to feel like you have to go to these people, it's sad. Like, it's entertainment and people laugh and joke about it. But at the end of the day, it's sad to see that there are so many people that feel like they have to come there for advice from these people who, in most cases, don't have their lives together either. As if they, like, why is this the place you come to? Like, that's the part that's disturbing.
Man, look, I never understood.
You ain't got no friends or nothing? Like, goddamn, call your mama or somebody. Like, why are you even...
Look, fellas, if you need someone to talk to and you can't afford it, go to the strip club. Go to your barber. just talk with these people. Like, you can have these conversations with random people. If you want to just be insulted on the streets, hell, talk to me. I'll tell you whatever. I'm just saying.
I was like, if you just want somebody to tell you some shit, like, you can tweet me and be like, hey girl, so I wore blue jeans on my date and I'm 40 and I have 3 children and I'm divorced and I make, you know, I make 5 figures, but I want a man to make 6 figures, or I'm a secretary, but I would just like a man who's financially stable, who makes more money than me, who's going to accept me for me. I can tell you some shit that'll make you mad. If that's what you want, I can be like, well, girl, your hairline is a little fucked up and you need to dye your gray hair and you need to pluck your mustache and you need to quit wearing jeans on your dates and you need to lose 30 pounds because no man's going to want you because you're fat because you had 3 kids from another man. Like, I can get on there and go for you. That's what you want.
Hey, look, if you just want to get roasted, come on. I'll do it.
That's what you want to go. Hey, you overweight motherfucker. Why you clicking like on every Instagram post and you got titties? No, we're not doing that. You don't get to like titties if you have titties. Go work out. Yes. Put that sandwich down. Get you a better paying job. You can't work at the convenience store your whole life, bitch. And quit riding the bus. Get a fucking job. Like, I could get on there and say some crazy shit. Take care of your kids, bitch. You behind on child. Like, if that's what you want. But I just don't see how that's helpful in your development and growth as a person. If that's what you want to ascribe to, it is. But I have pretty much I've just resigned myself to no longer listen to the things that people post about these people because it gives air to a situation where there shouldn't be. Like, you're just fanning the flames of a fire. Like, I don't believe in breathing oxygen and life into bullshit. And it's a lot of bullshit.
Yes.
There's somebody out here for you. And there's somebody out here for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. Mathematically, there's more men than women, so there's someone for everyone. For gay men, but there's also gay men and gay women. It might be counteracted. Also trans people. I don't know. I still think mathematically, I don't know, but better odds. I mean, so yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying they always say that, but then they don't account for the fact that some of these people like same-sex people, or that they are in polyamorous relationships where more than 2 people are in the relationship. So I'm just saying the numbers may look a little bit more favorable when you factor in those things. I'm not saying it's a perfect science. I'm not saying that everybody will be partnered at the same time. Obviously not. But the point is that at some point, there will be somebody that is for you, regardless of whatever these people have told you. People will like you in spite of a lot of goddamn things that you think are horrible about yourself. I promise.
Oh, man.
That if I've learned nothing else in life, the things that I dislike the most about myself, people find endearing. I'm not a serial killer and I'm not some kind of lunatic, so maybe there's something to be said there. Helps. But I mean, which obviously, not being completely off kilter does help, or being socially awkward, but I certainly feel like we are very hard on ourselves as people. So there are things that we do not like about ourselves that other people are like, well, why don't you like that? I actually like that about you, or I think that's cool about you.
I tell people this: embrace the weirdness in you. It doesn't fucking matter. We too grown, we too old to be sitting there acting like we still kids and self-conscious. I get it though. It's the world is not always forgiving. But some people just gotta learn how to say fuck it, whatever, and just roll with it.
That's it. Roll with it. It'll come to you. But since we're here, and we haven't had a good relationship talk in a while, because we normally have talked news and whatever.
I know.
Which we're gonna circle back, because we're gonna have to have a conversation about Ted Cruz. We're gonna
get there. Oh, Cancun cruise, man. Hey, man, y'all leave Ted alone, man. Ted said, hold on. What he say? Hold on, I'm gonna find the meme. You go ahead.
Well, I guess we're here. We'll talk about it, and I'll circle back to our
there you go. Yeah, hey, look. Catch flights, not feelings. Ted Cruz 2021. We got
Oh, that's funny. Ted Cruz is interesting because I don't want to get into. We kind of had this discussion. And I don't want to beat a dead horse since everybody has power and stuff, and I just will have a deeper conversation about that maybe when it's time to reelect some people, so it's on the hearts and minds. But it's very disheartening when elected officials who, by and large, or what the idea of American democracy is that these people are appointed to then go vote in the best interest of their constituents, or to do things to support and care for their constituents, don't have their constituents in mind at all. obviously Texans were facing a great dire situation in which many people lost their lives. We had children die frozen in their beds from hypothermia. We had people that
Mm-hmm.
killed themselves or family or injured themselves or family members because they were trying to keep warm in cars or starting, generators or grills or whatever the fuck in their houses and dying from
Dying
noxious gas,
from
like whatever they could.
CO2. Yeah.
Right. We had people, who didn't have water or a place to use the bathroom. We had elderly people who, were on oxygen machines or whatever. And then we didn't have power for a week. And these people, maybe low income, so they don't have like a landline or something. It's disturbing to me that at a time when the constituents of Texas needed these people most, they folded up and were like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ted Cruz was fully ready to just get on a plane, go to Cancun and say, fuck it, there's nothing I can do. When Beto O'Rourke, who didn't even win, was organizing phone banks and giving out water. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, regardless of whether you like, exactly, whether you like that woman, hate that woman, would feel like she did it for media attention or she did it for clicks or whatever, who the fuck cares why she did it? She did it. And the motherfuckers that should have been here doing it didn't do it. And that's all I need to hear. I can't vote for that woman in anything, but I hope whoever can vote for her does. Because because at least she had the conscience of a person. She doesn't want to see people suffering. So whether you say it was for media attention or for likes or whatever, none of us can vote for her. Nope. None of us can vote for her. So whatever she did or you feel like she didn't do, whatever you say she did it for, she helped people that needed help.
Yeah,
she raised money for people that are not her constituents. Because at the end of the day, we cannot benefit that woman in any way. There was no benefit to her raising money for Texas and coming down here. She could have stayed where she was and minded her own business about her own constituents in New York, and that would have been the end of it. And she'd have been well within her rights because she doesn't owe us anything.
Yeah, it's man.
No, Beto doesn't. Beto doesn't owe us anything.
No, he's not even. He's just a dude.
He's from El Paso. His shit is on the fucking American grid. That man had power in his house. He didn't have to do anything.
Which is weird. How come, so I want to say El Paso is on, New Mexico's grid, or they're part of the overall grid of the U.S.
Correct. They're on the
just
U.S.
The rest of Texas is not.
Correct. And then
because
I think part
Texas,
of Deep East Texas, I think part of Deep East Texas is also not on that grid.
Because Texas said, damn regulation. We gonna do it ourselves. Okay, cool.
And they didn't want to fix anything because it's cheaper and they make more profit when they just don't try to fix anything. So, I mean, I akin it to like a landlord who has like a house and they've been renting it out, but they don't ever do any upgrades to the house, but they constantly want to increase the rent to market prices. So anytime market prices go up, they increase the rent, but it still looks like it did when they originally bought the property in 1965.
No. See, they added a doorknob. See, that changes things.
Right. But then like the circuit breakers and the electrical and all the pipes and stuff are old, right? So you don't want to do any updates, but you keep wanting to charge more and more money and more and more money. And that's what I akin it to. They're getting more and more profits, but they're not trying to fix any of these grids or anything or winterize them so that the people of Texas are not going through week-long blackouts with no water or power. So
it was just a lot. Because even then, I want to say I read a report. Of course, I'm going to try to find all these news sources and link them, but they knew something like this could happen, similar to what happened with Katrina, where they had an idea that if X happened, Y is a good result of X. So you might want to fix your stuff. But
it costs money, and they don't want to do that.
Instead of actually making a regulation that there's a requirement to have all essential equipment, such as electrical equipment, gas equipment, etc., needs to be winterized for extreme colds. And this is some of the things I hate about engineering projects is like, well, what's the risk? If it only happens once every 10 years, we good. It's like, yeah, but if it were to happen in year 10, it will fuck everything up. We'll deal with that then.
Right, and then they don't deal with it, and they just waited for everything to thaw out, and then they were like, okay.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. Some people died. No big deal.
Yeah. So, if you leave it to Scooter, a.k.a. Governor Abbott, He blamed it on
Look
wind.
here. Look, Papa Willie better sit the fuck down. He got on national television and told them goddamn lies about how Green Deal is the reason that the power. Like, bro, that's not what happened.
Bro, the Green New Deal
there
is
are
not
wind
even in place.
in Texas. Windmills are all over the country. Texas is not the only place with some goddamn wind energy. Wind energy exists in some of the harshest climates on this goddamn earth. So you mean to tell me in places like Greenland and South Dakota and in power stations in Antarctica and Alaska or whatever, these people can have windmills or wind energy and it works just fine in cold temperatures. But for some reason, we just got the raggedy ones and our shit just don't work. It's just Texas. It's just ours. It's not compatible.
Yeah, that's all.
I hope somebody wheels him off the side of a cliff. And I mean that. I don't care. You can quote me. I hope somebody wheels his ass off the side of something. I hope his ramp breaks at his house.
You know, it kind of reminds me, you know, that episode of Chappelle where he was like getting revenge on all old people and he met that one dude in a wheelchair and just like shoved him down the stairs.
Amen.
Maybe somebody accidentally just tripping, you know. I don't know, man.
Amen.
But people keep voting for this dude. All of them.
I don't know because... I mean, listen, and y'all love that bootstraps mentality, and everybody Texas should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. People lost loved ones. People concerned about their loved ones. People, and if that is not enough for you to look at the response of your elected officials and the way that they were willing to just be like, fuck it, and just leave you to your devices and hope for the best. Mm-hmm. If you're still willing to vote for these people, then we are a lost cause. But I do think that a lot of this is gerrymandering and voter suppression, and that's why they keep getting elected. But we'll talk about that another day.
Hey, well,
like I don't think that it's given what it's given, and I feel like maybe these votes are not giving what they should be giving. But
look,
whatever, you know.
We can cover that next because that'd be the whole thing.
Fine.
Even
listen, that's the whole situation because for the way people like to talk shit to Ted Cruz, every time I look up, somebody is saying something horrific to Ted Cruz, like on his ass, foot on his neck, pedal to the metal. So for that many people to constantly have their goddamn foots on Ted Cruz, I'm trying to figure out who the fuck voted for him.
They just didn't want Beto. That's all.
That's got to be it. They clearly saw that man as a socialist and thought it was no, we're not gonna be able to do that. And I think that's what it is. I really think they look at the opposite and they're like, that's too far left for me. And then they just are like, fuck it, I'll vote Republican, which is insane, but whatever.
It is.
Like, that is insane when you think about it because they cannot pass legislature without the help of other people. So even if you vote for this person, like, they still have to work with other people. Yeah. So it's okay for them to have super progressive policies because chances are in America, they're going to end up somewhere in the middle any fucking way. If they want to get anything passed. Like, it's just America. Like, it's okay for them to be super left-leaning. Because what the fuck is going to happen? Nothing.
Hey, man, Bernie Sanders been in Congress how long?
Bernie old ass been there as longer than me and you have been alive consecutively put together.
That's what I'm saying.
We still ain't got no Medicare or Medicaid. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. Hell.
It's okay.
Also, hey, fun fact.
Y'all didn't have to vote for Ted Cruz. You didn't have to.
No, man, it's just funny, man. Like, I this is my news. I'm gonna get a shirt that even says this. Man, American politics is dumb. I'm sorry. Well, like, the whole Americans process is dumb.
Americans are dumb. So
I'll leave.
Not a bright
bunch. That. No, it's man. We only 2 months in. God damn.
It's been a wild one, man. It's been a wild ride. 2021 is already. She just couldn't come in and sit the fuck down and not touch anything. If you go to the store with your mom and she said, "Don't touch nothing," that's what we told 2021 to do. And she came in and knocked over several clothes racks and like broke some shit in the dish section. And we only 2 months in. I don't understand.
That's but yeah, I think I'm gonna end with this. Let's see if I can get this one in real quick. Gina Carano. Anybody? I don't know if did you ever watch The Mandalorian? I know you're not like the huge Star Wars fan or anything like that, but I don't know if you ever got an opportunity to watch it or not.
I did watch The Mandalorian because I don't have Disney Plus, but I do have a Fire Stick and I do have
okay, hustling.
IPTV.
Yeah.
So I'm good. I have ways. So I've watched The Mandalorian. Yes.
Okay, so there's a character on there named Cara Dune who was played by a lady named Gina Carano,
Yep.
who originally was an MMA fighter and then she went into acting.
Yes, because she
And
was in one of the Fast and Furious movies, the one
yes,
where we get introduced to like the little antagonist guy who kills Han, and I can't remember what his name was. Duncan something, was that his name?
yeah. I also think she was in one.
Hobbs, Hobbs,
Yeah,
yeah,
Hobbs,
Hobbs,
yeah.
Shaw,
So
Duncan
okay,
Shaw,
see, look, you over here
Shaw,
too.
yeah, the Shaw people, the Shaw brothers. Because
Yeah,
remember they killed one, the one that was doing all the, was that Fast Five maybe?
one of them. I don't know. Fast
I think
Furious
that
is
was
one of.
Fast Five or Fast Five. No, Five was when they were in the other country and they was robbing the vault. So Fast Six, I think. Fast and Furious
See,
Six, probably.
they all so disjointed. You don't know. It's just a Fast and the Furious
Five,
movie. That's all
Fast
you know.
Five was the shit with the tank. I remember that was the shit with the tank on the
Oh
highway.
no,
And
no,
they
they
was,
were.
and the Rock was still chasing them.
I thought they were on ice. Weren't they on ice?
That was a different one.
Was it? Okay, well. See, look, see how they blend together, and you're like, yeah, it's one of them.
They're all running together. What I remember from the okay, so Five was the one where they were over there. That's when the Rock's character was still chasing them as like fugitives.
Yeah.
That's before they got on his side. Then on Six, the next one, they teamed up because the other dude, the bad guy, Shaw showed up and was. That's when they did the whole plane situation on the runway, and they would drive down the runway with the plane shit. That's Six. Then
Okay.
7 or 8, they showed up on some ice, which whatever.
Okay.
It's sad that I know that much, but Gina Carano was like the girlfriend of the bad guy, but she was also a police officer, so she was like a double agent, and then he pushed her off the plane anyway, so that should
Okay.
have been an indication of how her life was gonna go.
Yeah,
But
pretty much. I think he also. I think she was also in the first Deadpool movie. I want to say. I want
yep,
to
she
say.
was.
Yeah. So.
Yes, she was.
Anyways,
So so basically she left MMA and she was able to carve out a very nice acting career for herself.
Yeah.
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 So she was doing well, doing okay.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, she had a
But then
case of
she
the
gets cast
diarrhea
into
mouth.
Disney. Then she gets in the Disney joint, and that's their guaranteed money because everybody knows that if you get in a Disney film, if they have any of the projects come up,
You're number one.
they're
You're
gonna
gonna
look.
stay.
They're gonna.
You
Yeah, they're gonna
stay.
pull from you first. They're gonna pull from people that they've used first. They're not gonna look for new people first. If they got something they think you'd be a good fit for, they're calling you because you already have a relationship with the studio. They already know how you operate. They're gonna look for you first. That's a guaranteed bag for like the rest of your life. Damn near.
Yes. And then the residuals.
Absolutely.
So, but unfortunately, eh, she got booted. I mean, she was known to being on social media saying a bunch of slick stuff, which generally I'm usually fine with. I'm like, hey, you know what? It's whatever. You have to, you can say some goofy stuff. Now, if somebody, flame that ass for it, oh well, that's a part of the free speech as well. But I know people want to say this. It's kind of how it came off, but she said something related to the Holocaust, and then that's where they were like, okay, that's a wrap, bro. You're done. But
if I'm not mistaken, she said something to the effect that originally, like, the Holocaust was like Jewish people, their neighbors, and
their
other
neighbors were the
people
first
around.
ones to turn on them, and that's how the Nazis were able to pretty much round them up. So the first people who enacted harm against the Nazis were the other Germans because of the propaganda and all these other different things that came out about them.
Correct, and then that's the way that people behave towards Republicans, and then we just turn on them and we just hate them all so much.
This has been a funny thing with them. They'll get on Fox News, a national news station, news whatever, and say we're being canceled on national TV. Shut up. You're not.
We're being crucified, cancel culture. And that's the thing. So here's the thing. There is no such thing as cancel culture.
It's not.
There is no such thing. I will repeat that again. There is no such thing as cancel culture. There are consequences to your actions. That is not cancel culture. That is life. You don't get to do and say whatever the fuck you want to and then expect that everyone will be cool with it and nothing will happen. Y'all are confusing a difference of an opinion with your neighbor about whether or not you should have a line of shrubs and a little strip of grass between both of y'all's driveways, and you getting on Twitter and being able to tweet out hate speech, and then your employer being like, "Nah, G, we're not okay with that."
Yeah, because here, this is also what it's called, and they love to point to it, but when it goes against them, then they be pissed off. And I'm by they I mean conservatives. For the free market shifts based on what's popular and what's not, what can be sold and what cannot. I'm not a big fan of the free market because I feel like it's pretty much how can I put it disjointed. It does whatever it wants. There's no exact formula, so I
No, we
don't like
learned
stuff
that.
like that.
Right. We learned that there's no exact formula, and that free market, laissez-faire attitudes towards economics don't always work. And we saw that in the Great Depression. So it's not as if we don't have World War examples of how that shit does not work like
Yes,
they think it works.
exactly.
It's a theory that we saw tested that doesn't work, but they still want to pretend like it works.
Yeah, it's like trickle down economics.
Yeah, it's crazy how you can tote some shit that was proven in action not to work and still be like, no, I think it could work.
Yeah, this time is gonna work. We promise.
But either way, like you cannot. She's not in demand, and I think that was what the point you were trying to make. If we are looking at this as free, as free market economics here, like, girl, you getting on Twitter saying some unconscionable shit that a lot of people who, one, you will be working with, you offended, and two, a fan base of people with dollars that they spend, you offended. They're like, no, bro, we cannot.
You're bad.
You're
for
now
business.
a liability, girl. We can't do that.
Yes, you're bad for business. So, and here's the kicker: they gave her chance after chance. This has been This has happened for like 6 to 8 months worth. Like it started like last year when she started coming up on Twitter and being trending. So somebody stepped to her multiple times and say, "Hey, look, we get it. We understand that's your opinion, but you gotta chill, bro. Just chill." I know somebody had that conversation multiple times.
And that's the thing. They probably had the conversation and were like, it is okay for you to be conservative. It is absolutely okay to be conservative. It is absolutely okay for you to say that you voted for Trump. It is absolutely okay for you to feel like you represent XYZ views. But what you cannot do is compare that to slavery, to the Holocaust. Like, girl, like, I'm sure they told her, like, we want you to say what you want to say. But girl, there are certain guidelines you have to follow. You cannot be out here saying things that are going to cost the company money. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like that's and that's the thing. And I think that is the case with most people. They keep talking about cancel culture and these people are being censored. And it's like, no, you cannot just say whatever the fuck you want to. And then when people get offended, be like, well, I don't care. And my employer shouldn't care either. No, that's not how the economy works. That's not how business works.
First of all,
we're in the business of making money. And you're not helping us make any, girl, so you got to get the fuck out of here.
And
like,
to keep it real, now granted, I would love to actually talk to a constitutional lawyer on this, but technically, your free speech don't really defend you against person to person. So if a person, just like if you were to go to a restaurant in your bikini and it's not Miami, and they say, "Ma'am, you can't come in here with that. You need to please go put proper attire on for my establishment." You can't then say, well, this is cancel culture. I am allowed to do this. This is my free speech of expression. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this is not proper attire for this restaurant. I cannot let you in. Please leave. In the story.
So, the point we're trying to make here with that lovely analogy that Quentin just made for you guys, which highlights the crux of this. And because I'm helping my mom with her science class, is also something that I've recently read a lot about and just wrote an essay about. Your First Amendment rights cover the way the government treats you and allows you to have freedom of speech and religion. There's nothing that says that your First Amendment rights are included in like the rights of the state. It doesn't say that they're included in like private businesses. It doesn't say any of that. So basically, because the federal government can't discriminate against you, all that is saying is that the federal government can't arrest you, mistreat you, torture you, kill you, maim you, try to censor you, take your things offline. the federal government can't deactivate your Twitter because of something you said.
Yes.
Your employer can absolutely fire you.
Absolutely. Twitter can absolutely boot you. These are
I was like, those are not the same things. The federal government can't, the federal government can't arrest you because you wore a bikini to the diner in South Dakota, but the diner in South Dakota can't ask you to leave.
Yes. Period.
And these are federal laws that are in the Constitution, which is insane to me. The Republicans are the ones yelling about this because they fucking love states' rights. Like, you love fucking states' rights so much, but you're mad because Disney told that girl to get the fuck out of their face?
Yes. And here's the first, man, look, there's so much.
Y'all hate California. Like, why the fuck do you care what they got going over there? Let them tell it you wanted to fall into the ocean. You hate it. Oh, there are a bunch of liberals over there. Blase.
Yeah. And the whole states' rights stuff is
Disney's not the state. Disney's not the federal government.
No.
So it's like, is it Uchiwali or one bite? Do you want these businesses to be privately owned and the government to stay out of it, or do you want the federal government in everything? I can't keep up.
They don't know. It just depends. What day is it?
Like they say that we're the ones that don't know, but I don't want government intervention and everything. Like but your First Amendment rights are tied to the federal government and the Constitution. That is constitutional law, girl. You cannot sue. Private businesses have nothing to do with the Constitution.
No, and then it's funny because these were the same people who were cheering. That's right. A business shouldn't be forced to have to bake a cake for a gay couple. That's their rights as a business. Okay, fine. If that's the game we want to play, what's good for this goose is good for the gander. Let's just run it both sides.
You don't bake no cakes, and she don't have no job. Look at that. Maybe she can go bake cakes.
These people are weird, man. I'm sorry. So, and granted, I know there's some people who will say, "Well, that's just a violation." How much? And I'm like, it does open up other questions. How much power do people like Twitter have?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can have a conversation about that and what you feel like is acceptable or what's your company or whatever. But I'm gonna tell you what I wouldn't do. If I work for my company, they know I work there. I don't put the name of my company on my Twitter or my Facebook or anything like that. I think it might be on my LinkedIn, which is neither here nor there. I don't make posts on LinkedIn. I do not discuss politics on LinkedIn. I will get on LinkedIn occasionally and wish somebody a happy work anniversary. That is about it.
Yes.
I use it for the purpose it was intended for, but I do not get on there to have conversations with people that are political in nature. I absolutely will not do that. I'm not going to do that. I will never do that. I don't care what the fuck happens on LinkedIn. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I also do not get on Twitter or Facebook and purport myself in a way that if you get upset with me, you're going to be able to go back to my employer and say that I said something that embarrassed you, maimed you, harmed you, hurt you, or in some way made me a liability to the company.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things, but what you won't do is catching me posting them in a manner that would make you then be able to link them back to my employer to get me fucking fired.
Yes. And I also will say this. This is another thing that I like to tell people because how I always want to say, well, you should be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. It doesn't matter who you are. But unfortunately.
And you should. And the federal government allows you to do that. Yes. And the federal government will not interfere with your ability to do that.
True.
But the federal government is not private businesses. The federal government is not unless you work for the actual federal fucking government, like they are not your employer. Your employer doesn't have to do anything but follow the laws of the state. Yes. And in Texas, this is an at-will state, buddy. They damn near don't have to tell them anything about why they fired you. Like, they could call me in the office tomorrow for something I tweeted, tell me that they don't feel I'm a good fit for the company anymore, and send me on my fucking way. And there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
But there's not a goddamn thing I can do. So they didn't have to tell me that they felt a way about my Twitter, about what I said on Twitter.
But it's also run around this too. Yes and no is what I will say. I will say, sure. However, this is the thing that we always need to address. Are words important or are they not? Because if words are important, then speech, we have to then be careful with what we say. This is the reason why things like art, literature, and all that stuff is always brought back up as being prominent as time goes on. This is why history is important because people take word and language serious. So then when you get people... But
it's not serious when you get in trouble. No. It was, she was just being a kid, or she didn't know what they meant, or she said the N-word because it was in the lyrics, and she didn't understand that as a white person, there's always some exception to why their free speech shouldn't be taken seriously.
Yeah, and that's the problem. One, your freedoms cannot supersede someone else's. Going back to the First Amendment, why people say, yes, it says freedom of religion, but it also is freedom from religion as well, if you read it.
Correct. Which people don't read, and which goes back to our point that we made 10 minutes ago. Americans are dumb.
Oh,
Don't
man.
encroach on my freedoms. And it's like, you don't even know what the fuck, you don't know what the Constitution says. You don't even know what the fuck freedoms you're entitled to.
No.
Because if you did, you wouldn't sit here and make these straw man ass arguments. But it's easier to sit here and yell and scream about somebody encroaching on your rights and your freedoms without trying to figure out why the way the government works and how what you're saying is bullshit. That woman got fired from her job, and y'all can demand she has her job back, and y'all can never watch Star Wars again, or never watch The Mandalorian again, or whatever. But at the end of the day, Gina Carano was going to be fine because somebody conservative or something will hire her to do something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they already have. I don't know if you're familiar with a person named Ben Shapiro. Apparently, they will be working on another movie, which is funny. But anyways.
And that's fine. Listen, if she want to go work with Ben Shapiro on a movie, good for her. I wish her all the best and all the wellness and whatever the fuck else, girl. You made a mistake. And sometimes you make mistakes, they get rectified with your fire. There have been a lot of people that told you there have been a million jillion people, and I bet you if I go on Twitter right now and I say, tell me about a time that you made a mistake and it cost you your job, there are gonna be people that tell me. My own dad lost his job over a mistake he made. He didn't do anything horrible, but my dad used to be a general manager for Sam's Club.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically, at Sam's Club, you can go into Sam's and they have like the customer service desk or whatever. So I guess at this point, people were still paying, like, there are some places where if you have like a card with them, you can make payments on your card in the store.
Oh, okay.
A lot of places cut that out and don't do that because now they do the credit cards through a third party. Like they basically like have the credit and stuff. Yeah, they've outsourced that, so the credit card is not sourced through them. The credit card is sourced through like WebBank or Coney Bank or whatever. Like if you've ever, like anybody that has a credit card with like like Victoria's Secret or something like that, it's issued through like WebBank or something like that. So basically somebody else does the credit scoring, all that other stuff, handles the payments. So I couldn't walk into Victoria's Secret and make like a credit card payment. So Sam's Club, I digress, but at Sam's Club at some point, I think you were still able to make payments on credit cards for commercial stuff or something to that effect. So a gentleman came in and needed to make a payment on his card, or he needed to pay for something or something to that effect. But whatever it was, he was going to pay $10,000. Well, anybody who's worked in retail or in big box stores know that you are definitely looking at revenue for the day. It's not item sold, it's revenue. Mm-hmm. So if you work places like that, you're trying to sell the biggest items in the store. You want to sell the refrigerators, the furniture, the whatever. Sam's Club, you want revenue. You want the most revenue you can. $10,000 is a big ass boost in revenue, especially on a slow day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently, according to the Patriot Act, if anybody makes payments or anything over that, then you basically have to do certain paperwork in order to take those payments. Well, my dad reached out to other people. Nobody called back. Nobody said anything. And him being a manager and feeling like, well, the store needs this money, was like, I'm not going to let what counts essentially as a $10,000 sale walk out the door. He took process the payment. So when I asked him about it, he was like, well, yeah, I did it. And they were like, well, you didn't tell anybody. And he's like, well, I did what I knew to be the protocol. I called and reached out to people. Nobody responded. Was I supposed to just let him walk out the door? Well, yeah. So he got fired.
Yeah, and then they'll then get mad at you. Why didn't you do it? Or why was your sales low? Which, never mind.
Right. Then they get fired because your sales low. But then they actually were like, why didn't you lie? Just say you didn't take it. Like his manager above him wanted him to just lie about the situation so that he didn't have to fire him.
Why? So then you have that over me now? What?
Exactly. Like it was insane. Like they wanted him to lie about it. So the point is that there are arbitrary rules that happen in things that will get you fired. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you violate policy, and whether it's good policy, bad policy, whether or not you did a good thing, a bad thing, whatever, you can lose your job. You don't hear people yelling cancel culture when motherfuckers get fired from their job for feeding homeless people out of the dumpster.
Mm-hmm. Or having to come in late because they had to wait for their babysitter to get there. No, you're just a bad worker now.
Right, now you're just a terrible worker, but it's not cancel culture. Nobody is firing people because they're Republican. We're firing you because you have shitty ass views as a person.
Yes.
That is the point. People with shitty ass views as a person who then espouse those views and hate speech to the masses get fired. Because I assure you that
who's going to want to work with you? To be honest, like think about.
And that's very serious because if you think about it in terms of, okay, well, I just said those things. I didn't mean them. That's just me exercising my right to free speech. Well, if you are putting up pictures of lynchings and talking about, oh, I'll burn all the niggers, why would I want to come work? Why would I feel comfortable coming to work with you when like 2 hours ago you were on Facebook laughing about how you were going to burn all the niggers?
Yes. And that's
like it's uncomfortable. Like nobody's going to want to work with you.
No. And I'm gonna say this and then I'm done I'm like, those people who want to say, well, it's just my politics, bro. It's like, nah, bro. It's deeper than that. Your politics is usually your view of the world and how you would like to see the world, how you would like to actually see the world. So it's not just you expounding that you feel like you're fiscally important and this and that. You have a lot of problems and you have some terrible views. That's
right,
just the reality of it.
Right, because if you say I'm fiscally conservative, you don't have to register as a Republican. You could be an independent who is fiscally
be a libertarian. Them niggas is insane.
You could be libertarian. Like I'm just saying, like there are Democrats there are people who have Democratic or liberal views or believe in things that are very far left leaning, and they wouldn't necessarily identify.
Yeah.
So to say that because you're a Republican is the reason, or you're conservative is the reason that you're being quote unquote canceled is just ludicrous. Nobody is canceling you because you're Republican. Because to be honest, growing up, we made jokes about people being Republicans and how, Republicans were the party of the rich and blah, but the amount of division that we see between the parties now is something that hasn't existed in this form up until this point in time.
Hell, it was always a running joke in a black show that the wealthier black guy was a Republican.
It was always a running joke, but it was just because rich people were Republicans, right? Like it wasn't because rich people were also racist, xenophobic, lunatic bigots, right? We all were like, President Bush is a moron, and Republicans normally make poor economic decisions because they don't want poor people to have anything. Yes. But it was never this level of dispute and disarray between the parties. And I mean, over time, this gap has widened by large percentages because and I mean, when you think about it, because if someone would have told me in 2002 that they voted for Bush, I wouldn't have been like, I don't think that we can still hang out. Like that's you're not
going to look at it. You're going to be like, okay, I get it, fine, whatever. It was
people
close.
People could vote. Yeah, like people could vote and you didn't feel like you had to disown them for it. Now it's kind of like they really kind of went in the opposite direction.
Well, that's because
I'm just saying people. There was a point in time when people could discuss politics at the water cooler at work. People could discuss politics at home, and it was a difference of opinion about things like the economy and spending and wartime budgets. But it was never this type of argument about race and the ways in which people are treated. Like it was to some extent, but not in the way we see it now.
Yeah. Because it's funny.
So for Republicans to say, oh, we're being canceled, that's not the reason. Nobody's being canceled because they identify as being Republican. You're being canceled because of the views that you are now. What does that say about you that you are now linking this set of particular views to being a Republican?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. So
that's it. Like you're espousing these views to that. We're not. You are.
And even if
I just said you were crazy.
But even if
I wouldn't have said you were a lunatic, I'd have just said, I wouldn't have said you're a Republican. I'd have been like, oh, this bitch is crazy. I'd have been like, oh, fuck her. She's a Republican. I'd have been like, oh, this one is nuts. Like, that's it. Like, nobody's espousing these things. You're the ones who are saying this makes you Republican.
Yeah. And even
I wouldn't have said xenophobia was a function of being a Republican 10 years ago.
No, it's weird. But it's funny because people like Laura Ingraham, that I always pointed as like, oh, they're saying they're going to come after the racists. And what does that mean? It's like, damn, are you now linking racism with Republicans and conservatives? Goddamn, okay. But even if
it's like, wow, why are all the isms yours now? Like the isms weren't all yours. Now the isms are yours.
Nah, that's what you like. I think you're saying the loud part, the silent part out loud. You might want to run that one back. But
they not. That's the Republican that's the Republican platform in 2021, saying the silent parts out loud.
Hey man, but hey man, well, we can only go up from here. Hopefully,
let's hope. unless the murder hornets circle back.
Yeah, I mean, can you blame them though? If it were to.
I feel like they, like I'd be telling Jesus to send the flood sometimes. So if he sends murder hornets, it's what I asked for.
Nah, I think they gave up on it. They like, nah, you know what? I was gonna go back, but fuck that shit. We
A
good.
lot of fucked up shit. There's a lot of fucked up shit over there. I just really don't even bother. What if they give me corona?
Like, hey, Pappy, I think we really messed up on that one.
Yeah, there's the murder one's like they don't wear masks. We're not going back over there.
Oh man, always fun talking with you though. But what else? You got anything? Last remarks for folks before we go ahead and get up out of here.
I just want to wish everybody on this last day of Black History Month. I hope you had a very productive, lovely Black History Month. Going into March, I hope we have a lovely and productive, warm, not snowy March. I know some of you will still get snow. I hope it's not too much. I don't think there's anything going on that I can think of. Super, super important. If you tune into the other show that I do with Chris from Shenanigans with Friends and Penrose from a million other projects, but most recently Penrose versus Anybody, we are covering the Netflix documentary about the Cecil Hotel and the mysterious disappearance of Elisa Lamb. That is a 4-part series on Netflix. We are covering in 2 different parts. We'll cover the first 2 episodes and then the second 2. So we are going live. So we'll be doing a live stream, I believe at 7 Central Time. And that'll be out, Periscope and Instagram, YouTube, and you can catch the feed. But we'll be discussing the first 2 episodes of that Netflix documentary live for All Docked Up. And then in 2 weeks, we will be discussing the last 2 episodes. So that is this Sunday coming up. Just check my feed. I'll have more information post. You can also check Chris and Penrose's feeds as well. And we've just kind of been promoting it. So hopefully we will see y'all there.
All right, all right. Yeah, I'm about to check. I actually need to watch that though. I've been watching a few more documentaries since we've been kind of just closed in, so I'll add that to my list.
There you go. Boom.
Yeah. Other than that, on my end, if you want to hear me, rant and rave more on the political spectrum and things like that, I do help my buddy Eric co-host this podcast, which is called Happy Politics. So if you want to hear a lot of, I guess you could say more in depth discussion on these subjects, then check us out there. We actually plan on doing episodes this week coming up, and so I'll post that to my Twitter.
Yay!
Yeah. So other than that, man, that's been about it, man.
Where can the people find you?
Well, everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Something. I do my Twitter is still active. And so I am on there as I have multiple ones. Let's see. I am again still at _Q_the_great. I also still have my Instagram, which is at Q_simp, and I kind of post like fitness stuff on there too. So just showing off vanity, it is. But other than that. I don't have Facebook anymore. Facebook got too crazy for me. So yeah, you can hit me up on those 2 platforms.
Okay, well you can find me on Twitter. It's at DJ_Burton. The show's Twitter is at chopping it up _pod. CHOPPINITUP_pod. If you want us to follow this third show that I do, it's about murder.
Oh damn.
Yeah, that's at Murder V Pod. That's V with 2 E's. You can follow me there. I should have a new episode out of that this not coming up week, but the one after that when I'm in the gap week for All Doc. Because that's the easiest time. So yeah, but I don't Instagram. If you'd like to follow me, that is also at BJ_Burton. Those are my personal ones. That's the easiest way to find me. I don't really tweet as much from the show's Twitters because that is a lot to try to keep up with. But we're there. We in there. We be out here. Happy Politics. Go follow Eric. His show is dope. Even when Quentin is not there. So yeah, please go check him out. TCD.
Yeah. No, don't believe
you can check out all of our shows there. We hadn't said that in a while, but
I know,
yeah.
Man, we're gonna get it all back. I'm gonna get everything all put up there, get cleaned up and all that stuff. We're gonna have all that rocking and rolling this year. I don't have nothing else to do now, so why not?
I was like, yeah, 2020 was a wild year, man. We got through it the best we could. So hopefully March will bring about some new beginnings and some kind of refreshing of old things, and we'll kind of get everything rolling again and have more content for you guys.
Yeah. So other than that, man, I appreciate it. Appreciate all the listeners, anybody who's still, rocking with us, any newcomers, all that stuff, man. Other than that, Appreciate
Leave us a
y'all.
review on iTunes.
Yes, please.
5 stars, please.
These episodes are posted in most places where you can find podcasts. You just Google up Chopping It Up with Q. It'll bring up everything you need to see.
And here.
So yeah, other than that, man, we appreciate y'all. Yeah.
We're out. Laters.